Okay, so we are on page 52. We're still in Across 5 Aprils. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking we can probably get it done this week because we're going to finish Across 5 Aprils and then we are going to read a poem called The Quarrel and then another poem called Apology.
I've already read both.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, we're going to read them and discuss them in class, and then we'll have our test over Phoebe and the General and Across 5 Aprils. The end of the quarter is coming up very quickly. I believe it is November 4th. Let me double check.
I'm not ready.
5th, November 5th. So November 5th is the last day of the quarter, and then November 6th is my grading day, where I'll sit in here wearing my sweatshirt that says I solemnly swear I'm up to no good, and I will be finishing up grading and entering your report card grades and stuff like that. And then grading extra credit that you did. So if you did extra credit and turned it in, that's when I grade the extra credit is at the very end, because if you'll remember, if you have a 0 for regular work that you didn't turn in, then you don't get credit for any extra credit. So make sure, and I will over the next week make sure that I know if you're missing anything, that kind of stuff. Okay, so just remember that the end of the quarter is coming up. It's not that big of a deal. It's just when the report cards come out. It's our kind of midpoint way to say, hey, here's where you are right now. Nobody's really doing very badly. Nobody's doing poorly. I think everybody's passing everything with a C or higher. So I know some of you have parents that expect more than a C out of you. But I also like to tell parents that middle school is hard. And at our school, 6th grade, it's really where it gets hard. In the public school, I think it's not till 7th grade that you start having different teachers for your classes and stuff. But it's hard. And so the first quarter, you're figuring out how things are. You're figuring out me as a teacher. I'm figuring out you as students. And so I don't get too worried about the first quarter grades unless they're like really bad. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're not turning stuff in but the first quarter, I'm like, we're all figuring each other out, right? And so I don't get too worried about it. Yes, Brady.
How many quarters are there? Is there like
4?
That's why it's called a quarter.
That's it, right. That's why it's called a quarter, because it's 1/4 of something. Okay, so okay. Misleading versus lying. Now here's what we were talking about yesterday, and Johnny said he didn't think it was lying, and I told him I disagreed with him. Mm-hmm. Is misleading someone telling them the truth? No. So do you see where I'm going with this? Right. And I think if you had stopped to think about it, you would have gone, oh, I see where she's going with this. So the correct answer is yes, it's lying. If you mislead someone accidentally, like you say something and they just misunderstand you, that's different than if you were to say, if you were to say, okay, let's say I asked you if you did something this week. Okay. Did you do this week? And you had done it on Saturday. And it's now Monday. And you knew what I meant when I asked, but you didn't want me to know that you had done that thing. So you're like, no, I didn't do that this week. Are you technically telling me the truth? Yeah. But are you practically lying? Yeah, because you knew what I meant, and on a technicality,
that's a good surprise.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it has to do with intent. And Jethro is deliberately misleading. He's deliberately misleading Jenny. These are kind of ethical questions that you have to think about, right? Because these kinds of situations will come up in your life, won't they?
Mhm.
You know, where you're like, I don't ever, like, some girls will say, you know, to their boyfriend or their husband, do I look fat in this? Now, if he's smart, he will go, you're beautiful, which has nothing to do with if you're fat or not, right? You could be fat and beautiful. You could be skinny and beautiful. I mean, look at me. I'm kind of chubby, but I'm super cute. So, right? One doesn't have anything to do with the other. But if a guy's smart, he'll go, you're beautiful, honey. But that's not what she asked. She asked, does she look fat in this? Now, if he wants to save his skin, he's going to say, you look great. He's not going to say, yeah, you're looking kind of chunky there, sweetheart. You know, I mean, right? Okay. I don't ever ask Mr. Hanson if I look fat in something because, I mean, I know that I look, you know, I'm a little overweight. It's okay, right? But I use that as kind of a funny example. But there are other things in our lives where maybe bending the truth a little bit might get us out of trouble. Or maybe it'll protect somebody else's feelings. Like, let's say I come in I get my haircut and it looks bad. Like, it looks really, really bad.
Like how bad?
Like really bad. Like, it's just a terrible haircut.
Like a 1 or 10.
Like, we all know I look bad.
Bowl cut.
And, right, something, right? I go back to my 7th grade mullet.
Oh, no.
And I come in and I'm like, do you guys like my haircut? And you're like,
Sure. I'd be like this.
yeah. I mean, you know, we're always in social situations like that where you have to try to figure out, how do I diplomatically and honestly answer that question? I usually say something like, you know, it's not what I would have chosen for myself, but I like how it frames your face. Like, I try to find something good about it, right?
What if there's nothing good about it?
Then I'm like, well, do you really want me to answer that honestly, or would you like me to tell you how beautiful you are?
I want to hear the truth.
Because you just asked for my opinion. You should never ask for people's opinion if you don't actually want to hear it.
Sometimes I like to hear the truth because then I'll know it.
Right, then I know I need to go back to my hairdresser and go fix this.
If I can change it, then I like to.
I always say a true friend will tell you have spinach in your teeth, right?
Yeah.
Like, a real friend will go, you've got spinach in your teeth. And you'll be like, oh. You know. Or a real friend will tell you, dude, zip your zipper. Right? Or, you know what I mean? Like, they'll tell you that, right? But we want people to be honest with us, and we're supposed to be honest, right? As Christians, that's kind of like, you know, Christianity simplified, right? We're supposed to tell the truth. We're not supposed to lie to each other. Yeah.
I know one for me.
Brady, stop reading. Yeah.
Oversimplified Christianity.
It is. Don't lie to each other, right? In fact, actually, Paul says that. Don't lie to each other.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
But sometimes we're in situations where it feels like that's really hard.
Yeah.
Or it feels like something bad will happen if we tell the truth. Right? And what does Jethro feel like is going to happen right here?
Something bad.
Something bad will happen. If he tells the truth, if he tells Jenny the truth, then Jenny's going to know that Ebb's out there, and she could get in trouble if the registrars come by, right? So sometimes, there are a lot of reasons people lie. There are a lot of reasons people mislead other people. Some people would not recognize the truth if it came up to them, smacked them in the face, and said, hello, I'm the truth. Right? Some people, I have known people who lie like they breathe. Just everything out of their mouth is a lie, and you're like,
is there even a truth?
Like, do you even know how to tell the truth? The sky's purple. I mean, everything.
No, the sky's
right?
pink.
They just genuinely don't know how to recognize truth
flat.
from non-truth, right?
Yeah,
but most people, if they lie, it's to get out of trouble or to protect. They think they're protecting someone, right? Or maybe it's they want something to be the truth, Like, I wish this was the truth, so I'm going to say it to make myself sound better. Like a kind of maybe a bragging kind of lie, right? Or they'll exaggerate something. You know, maybe they hit 1 home run at the ball game on Saturday, but they're telling everybody they hit 2 because it sounds better, right? Or whatever. Okay, so there are lots of reasons people lie. Why is Ebb misleading Jenny here? Why is he letting her think something that's not true? Brady?
Because he doesn't want her to, like...
Okay, louder.
Because he doesn't want her to, like, get in trouble and have all the pressure on her.
Yeah, he doesn't want her to have all that pressure.
He doesn't want to hurt her.
He doesn't want to hurt her.
He doesn't want her to know the real thing that's happening.
Yeah, he doesn't want her to really know what's happening because he's trying to protect her from the consequences because he's feeling pretty awful. And he doesn't want her to feel awful too. Yes, Brady?
You just said the word awful, and I was going to say I found a book that's in our...
Louder.
Thing. I found a book in our thing that says Miss Awful. That's the title.
Right. Okay.
Like the name.
How does Jeb... Well, okay, one more thing. Look at the top of page 53.
3.
At the very top. This is just what we were talking about. How misleading someone has the same result as lying. It was very simple to lie without words. He merely opened his eyes and grinned sheepishly at her. So he didn't actually ever say any words. But he, as the author said, lied without those words. He let her think what she was thinking instead of telling her the truth. He allowed her to believe something that wasn't the truth. Okay. How does Jethro get food for Ebb without Jenny knowing that he's doing it? How does Jethro get food for Ebb without Jenny knowing what he's doing? Johnny?
He gets it from Nancy?
What?
He gets it from Nancy?
Not quite.
Is it because he just uses the food that he has for himself?
Yeah. He acts sick. Do you guys see how that works? So he because he's acting sick, and what does Jenny think he's been doing? Smoking, right? Which makes, if you've never smoked before, smoking, it can make you sick. Like it can. Like it really can. I've watched people, puke the first time they tried to smoke, and I'm like, why are you doing that? That's dumb. Don't do that anymore. But he's acting sick, so he figures out this is a good way to do this. So if you look about like the third paragraph down on that first column, he says, he seized the opportunity to get some food for Ebb without detection. Would you fix me a little bread and meat and slip it up to my room later on, Jenny? I'll likely feel better after a while, and I'm going to be hungry when I do. So he's like, I'm going to pretend to be sick. I'm going to go up to my room. She'll bring me the food, and then I can get it out to Ebb. One of the things that Jethro, it's happening here, is that it says Jethro lay awake in his room that night and wrestled with his problem. That's figurative language, right? Because he's not literally wrestling. When we say we wrestle with a problem, what does that mean?
Debating on what you should do.
Debating on what you should do. Wrestling implies a struggle, doesn't it? I mean, have you guys ever been to a wrestling meet or wrestled yourselves? So my son Steven was a wrestler, and he wrestled for 6 years. He wrestled through middle school and 7 years. He wrestled through middle school and high school. And it's a struggle, right? It's a struggle to see who comes out on top. And I mean, wrestling has rules and stuff, but when you think about wrestling, it implies serious struggle. Okay, and so that's a great word to use when you're trying to figure out what to do. You can say I'm wrestling with this. Figurative language. It's a metaphor, actually. It's a metaphor because you're calling it one thing when it's not actually that thing. You're kind of comparing how they're alike. Okay, so he's up all night, and he thinks about asking his neighbor for advice. Ed Turner.
Do it.
Why does he decide in the end not to ask Ed Turner for advice? Brady?
He has 2 sons in the army already.
Louder.
He has 2 sons in the army.
He has 2 sons in the army, and why would that be an issue? Grace?
Because if he knows what what he's going through, the guy that was in the war, Ed, sorry. If he knew that he was going through that and it was so bad that he had the dessert, that he would feel bad for his.
Certainly could be one thing, yeah, that he doesn't want to make Ed feel bad, but also, would it create a conflict for Mr. Turner too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then everybody, I mean, he's kind of like going through all these people he could talk to, but then he's like, if I talk to this person, they might be able to give me some good advice, but then they're in on it, and then they could get in trouble. Right? So he just doesn't want to get anybody in trouble.
I know who he has.
What was the law on protecting a deserter? What was the law on protecting a deserter? Brady?
So if you don't turn in a deserter, there's going to be terrible things for your family.
Yeah, you'll get in trouble too. There were laws that actually stated, what the punishments were and stuff, but you would get in trouble if you didn't turn in somebody. So, what did Jethro finally decide to do? Johnny?
Ask old Abe.
Ask old Abe. Who was old Abe?
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. And who was Abraham Lincoln? Why does he matter?
The United States.
The President of the United States of America during this time period. I love how the author writes it here on page 53, the second column. Jethro turned restlessly in his bed. What if one put it up to Mr. Lincoln? What if one said, I will abide by the word of him who is highest in this land? But wasn't that word already known? Wasn't the word from the highest in the land just this, turn in deserters or there'll be terrible trouble for you and your family? But Mr. Lincoln was a man who looked at problems from all sides. Mr. Lincoln was not a faraway man like General McClellan or Senator Sumner or Secretary of State Seward. Mr. Lincoln had plowed fields in Illinois. He had thought of the problems men came up against. He was not ready to say everything on this side of the line is right and everything on the other side is wrong. What does he mean when he said Mr. Lincoln was not a faraway man? I mean, Jethro was in Illinois and Lincoln was in Washington, D.C. That sounds far away to me. What does he mean by he's not a faraway man? Brady?
His hometown, Lincoln's hometown is actually Illinois.
Well, that's true. That is true, but it's not a literal term. It's another figurative term. Johnny?
He's seen the conflict from both sides.
Yeah, he is. I want to give you guys a word that I think really would be a more modern word that would describe it. Instead of saying someone's not far away, we would say they are accessible. They're accessible. They're somebody you can talk to. They're somebody who you feel like isn't so high and mighty that you can't approach them. Abraham Lincoln was known for being a person that was approachable to all kinds of people. And so Jethro feels that in his heart, if he wrote President Lincoln, Lincoln could help him, right? So that's what he decides to do. But then he wrestles with that too. He says, would one dare? A nobody? A boy on a southern Illinois farm? Would he dare? Mr. Lincoln held the highest office in the land. What would he think? Would it vex him that a boy from southern Illinois could be so bold? And anyway, how could one say it? What manner of words could one use so as not to be too forward, too lacking in respect toward the President of the United States? So, he's decided to do this, but now what is he wrestling with? What's he wrestling with now? He's decided to write President Lincoln. So what's he trying to figure out now? Johnny?
How he's going to write it and how he thinks Abraham Lincoln would react.
Yeah, how he's going to write it. Because obviously if you're writing the President of the United States, whether you like them or not, whether you agree with how they're doing things or not, there's a certain amount of respect for the office. And, just stick this in, as a Christian person, we try to treat everybody with respect, even people who we disagree with. So, and then obviously Jethro admires Lincoln on top of that, and so you're like, how am I going to put this? How am I going to write Lincoln? I mean, he's the president, right? What are we gonna do? What is your opinion of Jethro's decision? Do you think he made the right decision?
Mhm.
Or do you think maybe there might have still been another way out of it?
I mean, I feel like both. I feel like there could have been another way out of it, but I also feel
You gotta
like
have an opinion. You gotta have an opinion. You can't tell me a little bit of both. You gotta have an opinion. By the way, remember, when we're having these discussions, you can have any opinion you want, but you have to be able to back it up. Okay?
I think it was.
Hang on just a second. Grace has her hand
I
raised.
think he did the right decision, especially for his age and how hard it must have been for him, knowing his cousin was in this, a tight space, especially when he didn't know what to do himself.
Right.
So doing that must have been the best decision he could have made.
Yeah, you feel like writing Lincoln was the right thing to do. That I mean, you know, what else was he gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay. Johnny, what about you?
I think he made the best decision because there's really nothing else he could have done to fix it.
Right.
Besides just leaving him on his own and not dealing with his business.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Here's kind of an interesting question, and we'll end today with this question. I think we'll be able to get done by Friday, which means either Friday and Monday or Monday and Tuesday, depending on how long we have tomorrow. Either Friday or Monday will be study guide day, and then the test will either be Monday or Tuesday. Okay? So here's the last question, and I want you to think about this one, and then we will start with this question tomorrow. Okay? So this is kind of a big question that I want you to think about. What kind of qualities would you look for in a person that you want advice from? If you have a problem, we're not answering it now, I want you to really think about it. If you have a problem and you're going to go asking for advice, what kind of qualities would you want? What kind of person would you seek advice from? So on that note, we're going to close class. You're going to think about that, and we're going to start with that question tomorrow. So you may get ready. You guys have art today, and we'll see you later. Make sure you have your masks on before you leave your desk.